So today we're going to be working on this handsaw, and it's a little rusted, as you can see. Somebody's already tried to kind of clean it up looking for an etch. This is a Disston handsaw. I don't know which one it is yet. I'm going to try to find out by the etch. It does have a filler medallion on it, so it is one of the older ones. So we're going to try to clean up that handle a little bit, not take off too much of the oil marks right here. We're going to be starting off with a new technique that I'm using, and it's going to be pretty much just taking the like a scraper and trying to scrape off as much rust as possible before trying to use any sandpaper on this. I've noticed that it helps quite a bit, and it will take over all these all the hardware, and we'll put them on the wire wheel. One thing I've noticed is that it doesn't hurt to put it on the wire wheel. I've also been using the green Scotch-Brite, and that has been working well. You just take both the halves right here, and you can screw these together, and you can take the Scotch-Brite, put it right there on the edge of the workbench. And you just kind of work it around, and it'll come clean, just like with no problems. Just the wire wheel is a little bit quicker, which is one reason why I like it. But even after using the wire wheel, I always come back on the Scotch-Brite because it cleans up any marks that have been left with the wire wheel. But with the wire wheel, you can actually go on and get into threads if they're dirty and stuff like that. So there's some advantages of the wire wheel, but some of the people that are really hardcore into the antique saws and stuff like that are like, don't do anything with wire wheels. So that's why I got the Scotch-Brite. You guys can use it either, it doesn't hurt, but you guys can see that. Where's it at? Let's get this focused. That's one side, and then that's the somewhat cleaned up side. I can work that a little bit more, but you can see how much shinier this is already. We're going to be working on the medallion real quick, and as you can see, it is covered in gunk and grime from over the years. You can tell that it's supposed to be that nice brass. One thing I have found with this is that I don't really like to clean it up completely. You can hit it with a wire wheel, you can really dig out all the gunk and stuff like that, but I don't like to have this completely done. I like to get the outside completed and brush off the top of the letters, still leaving some of the dark patina or whatever you would want to call it in the medallion to kind of show its age. Kind of like, almost like I did with this one, where I've left some of the age showing on the outside perimeter of this screw head instead of just cleaning it up. I got some right in there. So instead of making it nice and shiny, I've left some of the age on it, and that's what I'm going to do with the medallion. Now I can just go on the inside of it and try to get whatever kind of junk I want out of there and just work it till I feel like it's what I want. There's no specific saying of, oh, you need to get it so much to this clean. It's whatever you feel comfortable with doing. Whatever you like, actually. Not comfortable, but whatever you like. And there's where I'm going to leave it. It's got the high spots hit with the Scotch-Brite. So now you can say it says Disston and then filler on there right on the bottom with all the other decal parts on there, and then I'll go flip it around and just touch that up real quick. So now we're going to be moving on to the handle, which is probably the next easiest part, because obviously this saw blade is going to take quite a bit of work. Maybe it'll have an etch, maybe it won't, but we're going to be going on here. There's a few paint spots on this, And I'm going to be taking a small chisel and just kind of trying to not tear up the wood, but just get the paint off of there, and most of it's coming off fairly easy. We'll be taking some sandpaper and just briefly going over it. And there's I've read both that people like to use different oils, and some like to just spray lacquer or polyurethane the handles or something. For my own liking, I like to do an oil finish on it. I think that it just is better looking. It takes easier. This isn't really that bad. It's got no chips, no breaks in it. So all I'm really doing is cleaning up the areas where there was paint. So this will eventually still have some dark spots on it. But there's some lacquer right here that I want to get rid of. So this is at the point where I'm going to be stopping. This is where I have started leaving the handsaw handles. You can see I still have a bunch of like the old aged look on it still. I got most of the lacquer off of it. I think I've gotten all the lacquer off of it actually. I've already wiped it down with a rag to get it all nice and clean. So the next step I'm going to be doing is putting an oil finish on there and just letting it soak in while I'm working on the actual blade. So here's my rag that I constantly use for this. It's pretty damp already. I'm going to get this in here real quick. Pour some on there and we'll see what kind of dark aged look we can get from it. So this is looking pretty good already. I'm going to end up setting this to the side, letting it soak for a little while. Sometimes you actually have to take your oil and get it in some of the crevices to get them to actually stay and soak in there. Hope that's not blurry, but that's it right there. It's going to have that nicer dark aged look to it. I took off the rough gunk and debris that was all over it. So I'll let this soak in. Get that handsaw worked on a little bit with the blade, get it scraped, and see if I can find an etch somewhere. Before I put it all together, I'll put one more coat on this. Now we're moving on to the most time-consuming part, which is going to be the blade. This is really rusted. I don't see any kind of etch whatsoever, but we're going to try to bring one out. I used to take some sandpaper with a block and just scrape over the whole entire blade. But over reading everything and just over time, I've gotten this, or I had this old window scraper, and I'm going to try a new technique by scraping off whatever I can first, the rust. As you can see, there's a lot of rust on here. Well, whatever this blade is, I just uncovered, it's a 7 tooth or 7 TPI saw. So, let's see if we can find out what it is. Oh, it's very, very faint. Nope, I can't tell what it is. But this blade is 24 inches long. It's got a good etch except for right where the little number is. So after some scraping and trying to fiddle around with it a little bit more, you can see right there, where's that? Right there, that this is a Disston D8 with the filler medallion. Well, that is really awesome that we could actually discover the etch on this. This means that we can actually go ahead and date this handsaw. We can first start off by looking at the medallion. The medallion has the filler logo on it, the PHILA. That means that this saw was manufactured sometime between 1917 and 1940 when they changed the logo on the medallions. We can even go further into dating the handsaw by looking at the actual etch. During 1917 and 1940, there were two different D8 etches. One was the D with the 8 inside of it. The second was the D and the 8 side by side, the exact same height. This saw was manufactured between 1917 and 1928 when they did change the logo of the D8 saws, which is pretty cool. It means that we've actually been able to date the saw when it was roughly manufactured, which means that it has almost 100 years of history behind this saw right here. So here is the finished saw. This is where I'm going to be stopping it at. I've taken all of the rust and scraped it off, then went over slightly with the sandpaper just to kind of remove anything else that was really loose. The etch is completely there. It's got the D8 and even all of the other words that come along with it, as you can see right there to the left of the screen. So I didn't want to mess any of that up because it's really there. It's one of the best etches that I have currently. You don't really have to look for it. So this handsaw was actually a complete surprise at how clean it came. I was really kind of on the fence of whether or not to really work with it. The handle looks great. It still has a lot of the old feel to it, or old look to it. It's got all the Dean's dents and stuff like that. The brass is not completely polished, which I really like. The blade is completely straight. Look at how much extra blade is still down here. I have some that are almost right here where they've been used and sharpened so much. This looks like an almost brand new D8 from the 1917 to 1928 period, which is in my book, a really good find. I'm really happy with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing this little gem that I found. Give it a thumbs up. Thanks for joining me today. See you on the next video, guys. Hit that like and subscribe. See ya.